It is the Western Oklahoma Wake Up Show, brought to you by Priority Home Medical Equipment on Gary Boulevard in Clinton. Joining us on the Southwest Air and Heat Hotline, special guest, the Deputy Floor Leader of the Oklahoma House of Representatives, Representative John Pfeiffer. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Hope everybody's doing all right today.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you you calling in this morning. Now, you're up around, what is that, Kay County, Garfield County? Where exactly are you from?
Yeah, that's my district. I live in the northern part of Logan County in a little bustling metropolis called Mulhall, about 30 minutes west of Stillwater, right on Highway 51.
Yes, we definitely know Mulhall. So, well, we appreciate you joining us today. You are wrapping up your final term in the House of Representatives, and now you're looking at the Office of Labor Commissioner, correct?
That is correct. It's been kind of a crazy 12 years in the House. We've done a lot of really good things, and as I turned out trying to figure out where I thought I could best serve the state of Oklahoma, I looked and throw my hat in the ring to run for labor commissioner. So I know it's not one of those jobs that we think a lot about or hear a lot about, but especially this election cycle, everything kind of seems to be focused on the governor's race. But it's a really important job that is out there doing a lot of good work.
Now, Leslie Osborne is the current labor commissioner, and she is terming out, right? You have 8 years to do this job, right?
Correct. Yes. You could, same as governor, attorney general, lieutenant governor, anything like that. It's 4-year terms, and you can run for 2 4-year terms.
Well, you mentioned maybe this is a race that's not getting the same publicity as the governor or the attorney general race, but I want to thank you for not having any annoying AI-generated ads on television.
Yes. It's every election cycle is different, but this one seems to be really heavily focused on kind of those AI-generated, pretty just kind of dark, negative type ads. And I know we have a tough governor's race, but it's not going to hurt, I don't think, my feelings or anybody else's feelings when June 16th gets here and we don't have to listen to this stuff all the time.
Amen to that. Well, let's dig into the job of labor commissioner. As you mentioned, it doesn't get kind of a whole lot of publicity out there, but it is a very important role. What do you see as the key aspects of the job?
Sure. The labor commissioner, I joke that is basically anything the legislature didn't know what else to do with for the past 50 years, they stuck over at the Labor Department. It's a lot of health and safety stuff. They regulate and inspect boilers and elevators and amusement park rides. There's occupational licensing side of it. There is a payroll protection side of it. If an employee feels like they're not getting a fair shake by their employer, they can come to the Labor Department and file a grievance, and the Labor Department will look into it and rectify the situation. And there's also a OSHA program part of it I know people hear OSHA and all they think is, oh man, it's a whole bunch of people. This is a state-run OSHA program that they embed an OSHA inspector with a business. Unlike the federal OSHA inspectors, they're not there to issue fines or fees or anything like that. They're there to make sure that the workplace is safe, and so they'll embed an OSHA inspector with a business for however long it takes, and then certify them once they get all the things worked out, so that when the federal OSHA inspectors show up with their fines and fees notebook, they can just say, "Hey, we're state certified." Federal OSHA inspectors go, "Hey, that's great," and they turn around and walk away. So it's a little bit of everything. It's kind of like that drawer in your kitchen that winds up catching just a little bit of everything all the time.
So I'm assuming another thing that you do is when maybe employees have a problem with employers, maybe think there's unfair wages or something like that. You deal with stuff like that as well.
100%, and that runs through their payroll protection plan and employee protection plan. mainly, and that's one of the many reasons this job's important. Again, it may not be as fun in the election cycle, but it's, it does a lot of things. It touches everybody here in the state of Oklahoma in one way or another pretty much every day. But having somebody with some experience, with some judgment in there that knows the difference between bad actors who are truly trying to hurt their employees or do the wrong thing, and companies that have made a simple mistake, a payroll software glitch, something like that, I think is really important. And so I think I have that judgment, and this is where I'd like to serve the state of Oklahoma.
We're talking with State Representative John Pfeiffer. He is a candidate for Labor Commissioner. I guess after 12 years in the legislature, you probably got some pretty good experience in knowing what you would be getting into in this job instead of just somebody coming from outside government that maybe doesn't have the experience.
Yes, I started, when I first started in the House, I started in the Natural Resources and Regulatory Services Appropriation and Budget Subcommittee, which is a really long title for a budget subcommittee that controls about 2% of the state budget. A whole bunch of things that are really important, Department of Ag, Commerce, Conservation Commission, DEQ, things like that. But the Labor Department's in there, and that's where I first really started getting introduced to the Labor Department, and what they did. And boy, you want to learn a state agency, you start going through their budgets. And I had the chance to be chairman of that subcommittee during the bad years when we were really short on money statewide. And so I dug through all of the budgets of the state agencies that I was in charge of at that time. And again, I think you really want to know something and what they do. You dig through their budgets and see where they spend their money.
And speaking of budgets, is the Labor Department kind of funded by appropriations? Are there fees that you charge for certain things? How does that work?
Sure. Like most state agencies, it's a mixture of a whole bunch of different things. There is a state appropriation, not a very large one in terms of the overall state budget, but there is a state appropriation. There's some fees and the ability to find that can go into it, and then there's some federal appropriations, federal grant programs, things like that that also make up a big part of their budget. The OSHA program that I mentioned before is funded through a federal grant to just, again, try to make sure that our businesses are safe and on a voluntary basis. So it's a mixture of all three, like a whole bunch of our state agencies, but most of it, at least half of it, is through the state appropriations.
Now, one of the other things I imagine you kind of oversee workers' compensation compliance. Obviously, there's a workers' comp board and things like that, but you oversee all of that, I guess?
Excuse me. No, unfortunately, that all runs through the Workers' Compensation Commission.
It does, okay.
When we did, it would be right before I got there, so it'd be, 13, 14 years ago now, when they did the big workers' compensation reforms. They rolled all of that stuff into through the Workers' Compensation Commission that's run by the 3-member Workers' Comp Board. So the Labor Department was established in our Constitution and set up when we became a state, and it was set up for the same reason that a whole lot of our state agencies were at the time, to make sure mines were safe, to make sure children weren't working in the factories, things like that were a problem in 1907. And since then, and over the previous several hundred years, it's morphed and turned into more of a health and safety kind of thing. It is a regulatory agency more than anything. Again, most of us don't hear about it. We'll see. The only time we think about it, that occasionally, if you're riding in the right elevators, some of them post their elevator inspections in the elevators. So, so you think about it then. Or the only other time, really, that most of us think about the Labor Department is they interview the labor commissioner every year when the state fair comes to town. And they say, hey, we inspected all these amusement park rides. They're safe. Your kids will be safe. and away we go. And then most of us forget about the Labor Department for another year.
Well, I see the stickers on the rides at the Hydro Free Fair. That's the one that I'm most worried about every year. So we're talking with John Pfeiffer, who is a state representative. He's been the deputy floor leader. Of course, you guys wrapped up the legislative session a little bit earlier. You didn't get to accomplish every single thing, but boy, you guys sure got a budget deal done quick. That was amazing.
We did, and that made this year unique. I mean, every session is different and brings its own set of challenges. But this year, the ability to get the budget done as quickly as we did, I think, helped us show where our priorities lay this session. We were able to increase funding into public education, increase funding into water infrastructure through grants through OWRB. And keep everything moving forward here in the state of Oklahoma. I don't know, boy, that after we got the budget done, things sure seemed to get a little trickier. It's always good to accomplish your one constitutional duty as quickly as you can, but it sure seemed to creates a new set of issues when we did the budget as early as we did, because then all we did was just fight with the Senate about policy. So it'll be interesting to see if we keep this trend going, or if we go back to the way things were, where it's usually more towards the end of May when we do a budget.
Those darn senators always thinking they're better, right? I'm just kidding.
Hey, what's funny, and I mean, I represent a pretty rural part of the state, parts of Logan, Noble, Garfield, Grant, and Kay counties, 3,101 square miles, but only 6 stoplights. And it's funny, in large parts of my district, they know I'm elected and they know the senators are elected, but they can't necessarily always remember which is which. And so this whole House versus Senate thing's a relatively important thing and a big deal down at the Capitol. We sure seem to fuss about it a lot, but back home, it just really doesn't make that kind of difference. And that's some of the frustrations that I've had over the years when we get in these political fights. And hey, this is politics. This kind of stuff's going to happen. But for everybody else out here, just trying to go to work, earn a living, feed their kids, raise their kids, and have a little fun along the way. They just want us to do our jobs. Yeah. And I know we get hung up about it a lot at the Capitol. It's like, okay, well, the House is going to do this and the Senate's going to do this. And for the most part, folks out in the country just don't care. They just want us to do our jobs. And when stuff stalls out and when we get in these fights in the Capitol, it inevitably is never, well, the House did this or the Senate did this. It's, well, the legislature just didn't get this done.
Yeah. Well, good point. John Pfeiffer is our guest. He is one of a few Republicans running for basically labor commissioner in our state. Current Commissioner Leslie Osborne is term limiting out. So primary coming up on June 16th. So since you haven't been running the AI-generated ads, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to blast all of your opponents and tell me which one is an Obama liberal. Because I think everybody running for governor is an Obama liberal from what I've seen on TV.
It is amazing. Just you could just replace the names on those ads and switch them in and out like in Mad Lib, and they would all fit. I have some really good opponents. They're good people. I honestly wish I could, and sure make my job a lot easier if I could say bad things about them, but I can't. But a little bit about me. I mean, I grew up on a family farm, and my family settled here in 1889. We bought our first Angus cows in 1907, and for the most part, that's what I do when I'm not at the Capitol. Is I run registered Angus cattle with my parents and my wife Sierra and my son Jack. I went to Oklahoma State University and got an animal science degree. I was in the Marines for 4.5 years and deployed to Afghanistan in 2011, and then got out and ran for the state house, and have spent the last 12 years representing House District 38. And I'm, It hadn't been an easy job the last 12 years. There's been, it's always a set of challenges down at the State House. It's been a little unique set of challenges the past 12 years, but I'm proud of what we've done. I think the state of Oklahoma has some pretty exciting times ahead of it where we're seeing, we're number 7 in the country for people moving into our state, which creates a lot of opportunity. For the first time in state history, we've seen gross production tax revenue go down without the state budget tanking out. So we may be hitting that kind of equilibrium that we've all been talking about forever, that we have to diversify our economy so we're not 100% reliant on oil and gas. Not that oil and gas is not a huge part of Oklahoma. It is and will continue to be. But every time the price of oil falls and rises, that, our state budget isn't completely tied to that. And for the first time in state history, we're starting to see that. So Oklahoma's at a really, really neat position moving forward. And I just want to continue to work and help try to guide that. We've got some issues. Everybody does. Every person does. But we have some issues here in the state of Oklahoma. We've got to do a lot more work on education. We've got workforce issues that I'd like to try to address through the Labor Department. It's interesting. It kind of depends on which way you look at it. If you're hiring and wanting to grow or wanting to move and grow your business, you call them workforce issues. The other way to look at it is we have very, very low unemployment in the state of Oklahoma, which is great. We have about 3% unemployment, which is amazing, unless you're trying to hire people, in which case it's a problem. So we got to figure out where the jobs are today that we have to fill. We have to figure out where the jobs are 5-10 years away, so that we can get career tech, K through 12, and higher ed all pulling in the same direction, so we're able to fill these jobs. And mainly, I know a lot of politicians say this, but they say it because it's true. We want to continue to make this state a great place, so that when my son Jack, grows up, he can go to school here. He can decide to stay here. He can start a business, get a job, raise a family here in the state of Oklahoma without having to move down to Texas. And for the first time in a really long time in the state history, I think we're seeing that. We're going to see some really exciting things in the next 5 to 10 years here in the state of Oklahoma as we continue to grow and expand.
John Pfeiffer is our guest this morning, a candidate for Labor Commissioner. I definitely need to ask you about this, since Labor Commission kind of oversees wage laws, labor laws, things like that. What about State Question 832? That could have a huge impact on businesses in our state, couldn't it?
It will have a huge impact on business, and it's probably the scariest small business not even piece of legislation, but whether it's piece of legislation or initiative petition, one of the most job-killing, small business-killing things that we've seen in a really long time. What we're seeing is a push from a bunch of people who don't live here in the state of Oklahoma. We're seeing a whole bunch of money come in to support this from out of state, and it's all to take Oklahoma's minimum wage and raise it. I think the first year it goes up to 12 something an hour, and then to 15. But the problem is, after that, it doesn't stop. It indexes the state's, or connects the state's minimum wage to a CPI index that's figured in Washington, D.C., and then it will continue to rise indefinitely as long as our cost of living goes up. And not only does it not reflect what wages really should be here in the state of Oklahoma, and indexes it based off a whole bunch of different states. It also doesn't reflect the differences in cost of living that we have here in Oklahoma. It costs different amounts to live in Weatherford, to live in Blackwell, to live in Norman. So the best thing we can do, and the reason the legislature hadn't adjusted the minimum wage in a really long time, we've let the federal minimum wage laws guide that, is because the marketplace sets the wages and knows best. Yeah. And we have real life examples of this. California passed their minimum wage laws that affected their fast food workers and stuff. And every other country or every other state in the nation since that time has seen an increase in restaurant, hospitality, fast food workers, except for California. It has been a huge job killer in the state of California. And very rarely do we have real life examples on something where we can say, look, we know this is bad policy because we've seen what happens in other states and we see that it's killed jobs. And the percentage of people, I think it's like 0.5% of people in the state of Oklahoma actually make minimum wage. And most of those are colleges and university students on work study programs. So it doesn't affect very many people. And I mean, they're selling it as a way to, that the $7.25 federal minimum wage is not a living wage, and it's not, but it's not supposed to be. Right. It is a very, it is a minimum wage for minimal trained starting positions, and most starting positions here, because of the market forces here and the workforce issues we talked about, are paying more than that because they have to. I know there's a Taco Bell in Guthrie that I stop at way too much on my way home. That's had a help wanted sign in the window for 2 years, and they're starting hourly pay there for that Taco Bell in Guthrie is $12.50 an hour right now. And they still can't find employees. When we let government and make government stay out of the way, the marketplace finds a way to set these wage prices. And I just think if this was to pass, not only does it put a whole bunch of pressure on wages, it's going to drive up inflation here in the state of Oklahoma. It also does away with all of the negotiated exemptions that we've done in wage and hour laws in this state for the past 75 years. All of the agriculture exemptions that we've negotiated out over the past 100 years go away. It is just a very, very scary proposition that I hope does not pass here in this state.
Well, thank you for touching on that. Representative John Pfeiffer, he is a candidate for labor commissioner, almost out of time. Now, I'm sure this is something you've never, ever been asked in your life, so I don't want to shock you on this, but your last name is spelled the same as the actress Michelle Pfeiffer. She pronounces it differently. I'm sure nobody's ever pointed this out before. Are you related to Michelle Pfeiffer?
I am not related, but that is, how do you pronounce your last name is the second most asked question. The first question I get asked the most on this campaign trail is, what does the labor commissioner do? And then, how do we pronounce your last name is the second most asked question. I say it Piper. Other people say it Pfeiffer. After 12 years in the legislature, I've been called all kinds of things. You could call me. You can call me whatever you want. Just color in the box next to my name, and I'd appreciate it.
All right. Well, John, once again, thank you for your time this morning, and good luck to you. That primary coming up on June 16th. You have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
That is John Pfeiffer, candidate for labor commissioner, our guest on the Wake Up Show.